Have you ever stayed with something longer than made sense? Not because you knew it was going to work out, but because you just could not walk away yet. Sometimes that is what faith feels like. You keep showing up, even when you do not fully understand what God is doing. I'm Gabriel, and in this Gospel for Easter Sunday, that is exactly where the story begins. John chapter 20 starts in the dark at the empty tomb, and the person at the center of it is Mary Magdalene. So let me walk you through what happens first, and then we will come back to why her staying matters so much. It is still dark when Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb where Jesus had been buried. The first thing she sees is that the stone has already been rolled away. So she runs to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, and says, "They have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we do not know where they have put him." Peter and the other disciple run to the tomb. The other disciple gets there first. He bends down and looks in and sees the burial cloths lying there, but he does not go inside. Then Peter arrives and goes straight into the tomb. He sees the burial cloths there. He also sees the cloth that had covered Jesus' head, folded up and set apart from the others. Then the other disciple goes in too. He sees and believes. But the gospel tells us they still do not yet understand that Jesus had to rise from the dead. After that, both of them leave and go home. But Mary does not leave. She stays outside the tomb, crying. As she weeps, she bends down and looks into the tomb. This time, she sees two angels in white sitting where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and one at the feet. They ask her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She says, "They have taken my Lord, and I do not know where they have put him." Then she turns around and sees someone standing there, but she does not realize that it is Jesus. He says to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" She thinks he is the gardener. So she says that if he carried Jesus away, he should tell her where he put him, and she will take him. Then Jesus says one word, "Mary." And right away, she knows who he is. She turns to him and says, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus tells her not to hold on to him because he has not yet ascended to the Father. Then he tells her to go to his brothers and say, "I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." So Mary Magdalene goes and announces to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she tells them what he said to her. What I keep coming back to in this gospel is that Peter and the other disciple come to the tomb, see what is there to see, and then leave. Mary stays. That is such a small detail, but it becomes the turning point of the whole scene. Mary is not staying because she understands the resurrection already. She does not. She is not staying because she expects Jesus to appear. She does not. She stays because she loves him, and she cannot bring herself to leave the place where he was. And I think that matters a lot, because this is not only a story about an empty tomb, it is also a story about what faith can look like before everything makes sense. A lot of people imagine faith as confidence, like if your faith is strong, you always feel sure, always feel close to God, always know exactly what he is doing. But Easter morning does not begin like that. It begins with a woman crying outside a tomb. Mary is grieving. She is confused. She is still looking for Jesus, and all she knows is that he is not where she expected him to be. That is why this gospel feels so real, because sometimes faith looks less like having answers and more like refusing to walk away. You still go to church even when your heart feels flat. You still pray even when the prayer feels small. You still keep showing up to your ordinary life even when you cannot tell what God is doing with it. That is Mary at the tomb. She stays in the place that looks empty. She stays in the place that feels unanswered. And that is the very place where Jesus meets her. I think that is one of the most beautiful parts of this gospel. The first person to meet the risen Jesus in this scene is not the one who ran the fastest. It is not the one who understood the most. It is the one who stayed in love, even in grief. That does not mean understanding does not matter. It does. The resurrection is real. The empty tomb matters. Easter changes everything. But John lets us see something deeply personal inside that truth. Before Mary can explain anything, before she is composed, before she has the right words, Jesus calls her by name. Mary. He does not begin with an argument. He does not begin with a long explanation. He begins with her name. That is the moment everything changes. She still does not know every part of the full story yet, but now she knows this. Jesus is alive and he knows her. He has not disappeared into some distant idea. He is risen and he is personal. I think that is such an important Easter truth. The resurrection is not only the news that Jesus rose, it is also the reality that the risen Jesus still knows, sees, and calls his people personally. And that is why Mary matters so much here. She becomes the first witness in this gospel, not because she had it all figured out, but because she stayed long enough to hear his voice. Sometimes the most faithful thing a person can do is stay. Stay in prayer long enough to be honest. Stay close to God when everything feels unclear. Stay open when it would be easier to shut down and move on. Mary did not stay because she knew resurrection was coming. She stayed because she loved Jesus. And on Easter morning, that love was met by the living Christ. So that is the Easter gospel from John chapter 20. And the part I keep carrying with me is this. Mary stayed, and in that place of grief and confusion, Jesus called her by name. If this gave you something, support us by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who might need it. That is what helps us keep making these every week. And I would really love to hear from you. Have you ever had a season where faith looked less like certainty and more like simply staying? Leave it in the comments.